Is the investigation by the Secretary of Prime Minister and Cabinet only looking at Bridget McKenzie, or will it look into everyone who had a role in the decisions?
Well, that'll be a matter for the Secretary of PM&C.
Does Bridget McKenzie still have your support?
She does.
And even if you maintain Senator McKenzie has done nothing wrong, is there a perception problem here? Have her reputation now been tarnished in the...
Well, there's been a lot said and written in the media that is quite frankly untrue. Fact is, Bridget McKenzie has done an outstanding job as the Sports Minister and in her subsequent role of agriculture. She is getting out there, making sure that regional communities are represented, making sure that the interests of regional people come first and foremost. And whether it's Pat Conahan, myself, any of the Nationals, any of the regional Liberals, we will always put our communities to the forefront. I mean, people don't want to keep listening to politicians talking about themselves and the media speculating about these sorts of things. What they want to make sure is that people can get through this drought, can get through this bushfire crisis, knowing that the federal government has their back, knowing that the state coalition has their back as well. That's the important thing. At this time of crisis, I think there's a lot better things to be talking about than a program which honestly provided a lot of good outcomes for a lot of particularly regional communities and particularly little country towns, the likes of Maxville, which otherwise may miss out on funding. And I know in a lot of these regional communities it was the little villages and the smaller country towns which benefited it the most. Otherwise, those little clubs, those little organisations would have had no way of raising the sort of money that they were able to under this otherwise, but for this program.
Just one from Canberra, if I can. Are you still standing by Bridget McKenzie?
Yes, I am.
How can you when half of your party doesn't?
Well, who said half my party doesn't? Fact is, again, it's just media speculation. Media analysis, I say report the news, don't write the analysis. Let's see what the Secretary of PM&C, Phil Gaetjens, comes up with in his report. Let's let that process take its natural course of process, and we'll see what happens after that.
What will happen if it finds that she acted inappropriately or breached ministerial standards? What will you do?
Well, that's completely hypothetical. I'm going to not be... No, I'm not going to be... No, you've asked the question. I'm going to answer it. I'm not going to be judge and jury. I'm going to let process take its course. That's the only right thing to do. In any situation in Australia, people are always innocent until proven otherwise. Bridget McKenzie has declared her memberships as she was required to do. Bridget McKenzie has followed the process as she was required to do. And let me tell you, this process that she followed was way and above more transparent and more accountable than the processes previous Labor governments put into place. And particularly when it came to regional funding, Labor thought regional funding was inner city suburbs of Melbourne and Sydney. That's not, to me, regional funding. That's not doing the right thing by the taxpayers. We always do the right thing by the taxpayers. And there are a lot of good projects as part of this program, which, yes, missed out. There always is. I know when we have rounds of the Building Better Regions Fund, and we've got one at the moment which is being considered by the department. They'll come back to me with various scores as to how each of the projects was judged based on its merits, based on the evidence put before it, and then we'll make a decision, as I'll make a decision as the Minister with a ministerial panel to see what projects are eligible for funding. But the fact is, with that particular program, it's always oversubscribed 6 times from what the funds are available. And that's because there are many good projects, particularly in regional Australia, which are deserving of funding. But we can't fund all of them at once. And that's why, as Pat Conahan said earlier, that's why we're lucky we've got a government which is fiscally responsible, so we can continue to do rolling funding programs, particularly for sport, particularly for regional development, and we'll go on doing that.